Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 9 of Be With Me. We are going to look today at our first contact of devout Jews of Jerusalem's first contact with the disciples' first contact with the Holy Spirit's first contact in a new way with our planet. So today's going to be a day of first contacts, and we're going to see what happens. We're just going to open up our eyes. So enjoy and listen kind of with just an open heart, not with our familiar hearts. Let's listen with our unfamiliar hearts. This is from Acts chapter 2. It's about the coming of the Holy Spirit. Here we go. When the day of Pentecost arrived, they were all together in one place. And suddenly there came from heaven a sound like a mighty rushing wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. And divided tongues of fire appeared to them and rested on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. And at this sound, the multitude came together, and they were bewildered, because each one was hearing them speak in his own language. And they were amazed and astonished, saying, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language? Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia and Phrygia and Pamphylia and Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians. We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God." And all were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others mocking said, "They are filled with new wine." So I'm going to just give you my first impressions of the disciples' first impressions of a group of people watching the disciples get this, of the Holy Spirit making a first impression on the planet. It's just a day of firsts, so stay with me. My first thought is they're all together, so what a great thing. They're all with one accord. The Christian church at this time was unified and gathered and agreeing and deciding and putting faith in their book. And this gathering eventually is going to be exploded through the rest of the book of Acts. But for now, they're gathered so that they can be distributed. And I just love this, that it says that this happened without warning. But that's really not true. I'm just being very kind. Verse 4 and 5 of literally the first page of Acts. We're on the second page of Acts. The first page says, "While Jesus was still here and staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, 'You heard from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now.'" And then literally his last word on the planet was about the Holy Spirit. This is 1:8. "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." So it's not a surprise. And this is all about the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, we have been waiting for you. And that it's cool that the Holy Spirit gives us communication. So this changes everything. I can't wait for someday here to dissect out all these places that are mentioned, because geography informs theology and geography informs interpretation. So trust me, we'll definitely talk about this. And I love the confusion that happens in response to this. So the disciples, it doesn't say the disciples are confused, but definitely the people that heard the disciples were confused. and they were amazed and perplexed. So there's confusion reigning, even though the message was unconfused. Everybody heard it in their own language. I don't know if you've ever done any traveling in the other countries, but traveling is basically a whole effort of confusion. There's different language, different habits, different traditions, different taboos, and traveling is confusion, and the cultural mixing is confusing. And here they're saying that actually goes down with the presence of the Holy Spirit. So they are amazed and perplexed, and perhaps that the Holy Spirit has come, and then what does this mean, and what is happening to these other people, but also the distribution of it, that God up to this point has come to an ark and to a tabernacle and to a city and to a temple, and now we see the God, if you will, distributed into people. It's like the electrical grid change. Like historically, I don't know if you've ever been to the Glen Canyon Dam, but it's this massive dam and holds this massive amount of water, and you can just imagine that the generator at the bottom of the dam, you think it could power the entire state, and I think it does. And now we're saying, okay, that's kind of the old way of thinking about God, where God was centralized in prophets and in nation, and he certainly has a one way of saving, and he certainly has one story to tell. But now the way he's going to tell it is by distributing the power grid. It's almost like every Christian gets their own solar cell of spirit enablement, and we see what happens when the Spirit is enabled. We get new stuff. We get the declaration of the wonders of God, the mighty works of God. Okay, so this is the first message, and you see a bunch of different people group getting it. And the big question is, what happens when the Holy Spirit comes to the planet in a new way? This is of similar import to when the baby Jesus came to Mary and Joseph in the manger. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we have a holiday that the whole world practically celebrates about that. Now we have this almost like secret holiday of the Holy Spirit coming and having Pentecost, but I just want to elevate what is happening here, because this changes everything. This first contact of a first contact of their first contact of the Holy Spirit's first contact changes everything. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow. We'll talk about this more.